Okay, let me turn my volume down when it hits.
We are live. Good morning, everybody. Back with Jody. Jody, I haven't seen you since December because of my dental work in January.
Oh, okay, I'm waiting for my phone to kick in live and it'll blast out the sound. It's telling me you're not on yet. Come on, come on. We have a, well, there we go. There's our delay. It looks like we're sitting at a table. I love it. Look at the way your picture comes out underneath us. We're at a giant's table with smoke rising behind us. Good morning, Sharon. Ooh, dozen cats. Good to see you again, Kelly.
Hi, Sharon.
Big hugs. And Rosie, I'm already drooling over Mendocino.
Jen Baez.
Hi, Jenny. I don't know if I know Jenny.
Jenny from the block.
Jenny from the block? What's that mean?
J-Lo used to call herself Jenny from the block, so I'm calling Jen Baez Jenny from the block.
Okay, good morning, Margaret. So, and Adrienne, oh, she's on. Okay,
I was telling Jody, rolled out of bed to do this because I stayed up with Johnny and Becca last night till 2 a.m. Lori hung with us till like midnight, I think. I'm a little froggy voice this morning.
I got up really early because I'm on a saltwater detox. So morning is the time where it's like, if you see me run, you'll know why. And I just wanted to take the salt water really early. And I'm like, okay, maybe I can handle an hour. I'm sitting still. So happy New Year. We haven't done this since last year.
Good morning, Adrienne.
Last year. Hi, Paisley. Oh my God, it's good to see you guys. Oh, Beth Cat, good morning.
Miss Beth Cat.
Yeah, when I'm on my iPad, there's no chat stream at all. I can only get it on the phone.
Well, this morning we're talking about staying curious. So I'm sure Roro will come up here when I get ready to light the candle and be all curious.
I know. Did you get a different holder for the candle so it's a little more shielded from the kitty cat?
No, I after we do our live, I put it in a window to burn completely down. Whenever I'm doing, candle lightings, I always let them burn all the way down. I use tea lights, and I have this little octagon shaped window up high that the cats don't get in. So I set it up there and.
Okay, I'm going to burn Palo Santo before we start. And I have two really important people to introduce y'all to. If you're not on Facebook, you've never met these guys. One of my good friends, I've lived with her a number of times in Texas, sent me a gift and wouldn't tell me what was coming. Okay, smudged in. So I got this box with coffee gnomes in them.
Look at their little legs.
Little legs. You know what I realized? Because we were dancing one day, and I'm like, oh, they don't have knees. Because I was doing Gabriel Roth, like, now we're going to work on the knees, and I'm like, they don't have knees. So this one is Joy, and this one is Storm, and I tell them apart because I colored in their hearts. So they get posed in weird places throughout.
I love their little coffee mugs in their hands.
I know, they got coffee mugs. They're great.
Sacred sounds of gnomes with coffee.
Don't tell them they can talk, please.
Oh, they can talk.
Yeah, I know. They're pretty funny. It must be who's making all the clunking sounds in my attic these days. I was on Zoom with a friend of mine in California one night, and literally the clunk sounded like somebody was pounding on my door, and like I had a screen on the door, which I don't, and I'm like yelling at the top of my lungs to scare whoever that is.
So you're having some spirit activity.
That happens a lot around here.
Yeah. Every house I've lived in pretty much for the last 20, 25 years has had not earthbound ghosts, but ghosts that come and visit, come and go.
Well, this neighborhood and a group of my friends are all aligned with Sasquatch. And I've encountered them before in California. I have a portal, a Stargate on this land. And I had a client who's like, blah, 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 Sasquatch. And then other clients are like, yeah, there's a place in Mount Ida you can go visit. And they come in there all the time. And I'm like, oh boy, that's fun when they open again. And I'm talking about being curious. And I went out to the Stargate after this session with this man. And I'm like, okay, what do you guys want? I'm hearing you calling. And they asked permission to use the Stargate to walk in. I'm standing there going, under one condition: the human scares easily, don't come in unannounced. Like, just do not show up at my door and go, hi, let's have coffee. But it's been funny because ever since I gave them permission, they actually patrol the 2 acres and the house. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? You're sitting on the roof. Like, interesting spirits I have around me.
I think spirits a lot of times are just curious and like to come in and check on things like places they've lived before and see how things are going. So staying curious.
Yeah.
Like to see how you're treating their home, if they lived there at one time.
Yeah, this is the newest house I've lived in probably 20, 40 years. And it doesn't have that kind of activity at all. I'm used to having ghosts in my house. And this one was really clean of that. It's the land and the creek. I mean, the creek is where a lot of spirits like to hang out because it's pretty and it's quiet. And there's 70 acres over there.
They like water too.
They like water. There's a lot of water out there. Oh, there's all kinds of people. Good morning. Does this mean we have to wake up and do something? Okay. I'm going to tell my Be Curious story. I have 2 of them.
Before I forget, before we get into our staying curious conversation, Lori and I settled on a time for Valentine's Day. We're going to be live on my channel at 4 Central, 5 Eastern time. I'll be posting on my community tab, and I want people to give me some Valentine's or love-related questions, in addition to political questions for that. Here's Mary. Hey, Mary.
That will. I am going to be starting a Patreon page on my channel where I can actually meet with y'all, who join on Zoom. I want to be able to interact with the people that are doing that. And I'll also be posting the recording of my monthly gong bath, which is an hour non-stop of all this stuff. Because technically, I don't play the gongs for more than a few minutes in sessions unless I'm doing my gong bath once a month. So I'm going to be doing that. And Sharon, if you can post my booking link, the way I earn a living and pay for the gongs and gnomes I feed is through doing healing sessions, whether it's voice analysis or shamanic sessions I've been doing for 36 years. And I have I have a lot of drums, obviously. See, there's a bunch of them back there. But I basically use the metals as my drums in Shamanic Journey because it gets us out there faster. So if anybody's interested, message me.
I love Shamanic Journeying. It's the drums affects like your heart rate and everything, and it gets you going in a different vibration very quickly.
Yeah, my favorite Shamanic Journey tool, I've moved him. Okay, let's see if I can, okay, not that gong, but the one behind the little one, that gong with my personal drum, which is a skin drum with Buddha painted on by the one who paints all of those. They resonate together, and I like doing Shamanic Journey with both of those going. It's really because the drum is earth grounding, the gongs are star grounding, so you get the entire chakra system and all that stuff. So yeah, happy New Year! Thank you, Adrian. I appreciate it.
So staying curious, I was thinking about it. I liken it to, when you're a child, sometimes there's certain foods you don't like, but as you get older, you discover you like them. So staying curious to me is about giving something a try every now and then, because how you resonate with it may have changed over
Mhm,
time and over
mhm.
maturity and over things you've learned or whatever. Have you ever picked up a book and couldn't read it, like it just couldn't get into it, and you go 6 months down the road and you pick it up and it's like the best book
Yeah,
ever? It's like
yeah,
just the right time.
yeah, yeah.
um it's kind of like that, because I remember as a child too, not liking tomatoes, never liked tomatoes.
Mhm, mhm.
And as when I got older into, my late teens and 20s, I discovered I love tomatoes. Like now I always grow tomatoes in my garden, and um,
Yeah,
my taste buds changed.
yeah, yeah. My my mother was very exploratory with food, in our military go around the country thing. And she would find food that she liked and then force the kids to eat it. And my father, I found out after we all moved out of the house that he hated broccoli because he walked in one day to a family dinner we were all having, announcing he had a sign that had broccoli with a line through it. Never again. I'm not doing this for you kids. But my mother would feed us chickpeas, raw, cold. And it was like, oh, hell no, I am not doing chickpeas ever again. And then I found out that's how you make hummus. I love them in hummus. So yeah, it was like try them out in a different form. It'll be fun. And the same with things like Brussels sprouts. I learned how to cook with embellishment so that I can make it creative and tasty, and all this stuff
Yeah.
tasted good. And tomatoes, I don't like raw tomatoes in much of anything. And my landlord, when I was looking at the house in the yard, there was a vine of baby yellow tomatoes that were still growing. So he's picking them and handing them to me, and those were the best tomatoes I have ever tasted because they were out there.
Yeah.
So I'm
They're
looking forward.
fresh. It's like, I was always taught taste everything on your plate. Like, so
Yeah.
if I go to a friend's house for dinner, and I will make sure I taste everything. I might not eat a full portion
Mhm.
of something, but I'm going to taste everything.
Mhm.
I think it served me well when I worked in the corporate world and I was traveling internationally in all these strange countries and eating strange foods, and I would always taste everything. Um, and I'm a pretty adventuresome eater. I'll eat just about anything.
Mhm.
I love different flavors and different style of
Mhm.
cooking and everything, but um, I'll at least give it a try, to
Yeah.
see what I like. And I think that's the way in life. Like you just have to try things
Yeah.
and see
Yeah.
what resonates with you. If you try something and you enjoy it, like say you try shamanic journeying and you enjoy it, pursue it, keep going down that road. If you
Yeah.
enjoyed it but not really your thing, not really into it, let it go. Try something else.
Mhm.
Try something else. Move on into something else.
Exactly.
But
Well,
we're
that's
here to learn. I
yeah.
look at Earth as a classroom. We're here to learn and experience. And if you don't, we have free will. If you don't take a step towards something, it's not going to move towards you either.
Mhm. Mhm.
You have to be willing to take, one step towards something, to um, try things and see what you like.
Yeah. Well, and I'm looking at Lisa Carolyn. I wish I was an adventurous eater. It's one of the things I've had to do because there are some foods I will not touch still to this day. Mushrooms being one of them, and I had to go through the reason why, and there was a reason. There is a reason, and what I've done over the years is turned it into a ceremony. I'll turn anything into a ceremony. So if I go out to eat with people and I like a lot of, you know, Chinese food and stuff like that. There's always mushrooms in there. I have always turned it into a giveaway ceremony. Before I touch my food, I'm like, okay, Who wants the mushrooms? And everybody loves mushrooms. So I'm in there, throwing out all the mushrooms and handing them out. And everybody's like, ooh, I got the mushrooms. And I'm like, yeah, I don't. Yay. So it's really funny. Something simple like that. I actually started that when I was, 36 years ago in 12-step programs. Okay, who wants the mushrooms? I'm not eating them. So that was where I'm done being curious about this one. I know I don't like them. I'm going to leave it there. So back in the early days, really early in my path with this stuff, I had the guide that I wanted to work with was Merlin. And I had guides already, but I wanted to work with Merlin. So one of my channeler friends introduced me to Merlin. And his first teaching, in the early days of doing channeling and the stuff that I was doing, his first teaching was always ask questions, be curious. And he would say, learn a form, whether it was shamanic journey or psychodrama, because I was doing a lot of inner child psychodrama. He said, learn a form and then drop beneath the form and find the common ground. And he said, and do that with whatever you learn. And it was such profound wisdom to have that teaching, because it made me ask questions. And as someone who teaches people to communicate with their guides, and I've done that for over 30 years, a lot of what I see is, and I had this happen the other day with somebody who was given a guide from somebody that she met. And, she shows me the pictures, and it was an art thing, and tells me the description. And, my spidey senses are going, danger, danger, there's a problem here. But I don't message somebody and go, you got a problem. I messaged her and I said, did you ask this question? Did you ask that question? If you haven't, please do. And she came back with, that's not for my highest good. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I'm not going to, I would rather have somebody realize that. And she was curious and she was willing to ask questions, because people will just get a piece of information and think it's for the highest good. And I'm like, no, not necessarily. There's a lot of interference over there.
There are trickster energies out there.
Yeah.
There are earthbound energies that can be tricksters. So I always tell people, hold the intention. Only spirits of love and light are allowed to connect to me. That's instant protection, that you're not going to get those trickster energies messing with you. And they'll help guide you when you take that step towards something. I call it mindful resonance too. It's like you have to be discerning, and when something's not resonating with you. It's like, oh, okay, that may be a trickster energy. Hang on there.
Exactly. Exactly.
You have to have a mindful resonance, and think about how does it resonate with me, especially when you're exploring things in the metaphysics world. But I find myself, very, very cat like. We were laughing because before we started, the cats were on my chair. I said, of course, they're around for a conversation about curiosity. I always stay curious. Like, I stay curious about other cultures when I would travel, and I would ask questions and show interest in people I was working with, in what their community was like. I show interest in my neighbors. Like, if you don't have any friends or neighbors that you're acquainted with, maybe you haven't been curious enough to get to know them. So if you take a little time to get curious about their life, and share with them and ask them some questions, you'll find that people open up more.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean that you let people tromp all over you or, take advantage of you. That's where the discernment comes in. It's like, okay, you learn real quick, like how it's resonating, if you need to set boundaries with someone.
I live in a neighborhood. My street, this part of the street, has 4 houses, and probably, I don't know, 40 or 50 acres worth of land between the 4. I'm on 2 acres. So, everybody gets up, goes to work before I get out there to even open the blinds. And I haven't met anybody yet. It's also been bloody cold here. Nobody goes outside. So, I'm looking out my glass window one day. I'm sitting here in the chair and I can see out the window, and I see some people walking up to my Wi-Fi pod on the street. And now, mind you, after not having Wi-Fi for half of last year, I'm a little protective of my Wi-Fi. So I'm like, what? What are they doing? And I go out there and it's raining out and it's cold as all get out, and I'm saw where they came from, and I'm looking at him. I'm going, okay, one of you must be my next door neighbor, and he goes, yeah, and we just started talking and saying hi and introducing ourselves. It is his cat that visits me. I forgot to ask the cat's name still, but I brought him in to see the gongs because his girlfriend is a massage therapist who uses a Tibetan bowl, and it was like never would have figured that out in this neighborhood. It's really cool. But just asking questions got a really interesting bit of information. He and I both work at home, so we're here all the time. We're like the neighborhood watch.
That's me. I'm the Mrs. Kravitz of the neighborhood. I watch, and I'm guardful. Like if somebody's
Yeah.
doing something they shouldn't be doing in the neighborhood, I'm the one that'll see it first
Yeah, the same
because I
way.
work from home. So
Yeah. Yeah,
Beth,
there's so
Beth Cat always
yeah,
teases me because I'm Mrs. Kravitz
well,
from Bewitched.
it's good to pay attention.
Yeah.
I like paying attention to that. But yeah, I don't know what they did to his Wi-Fi, but mine got better. So I'm saying thank you all week. Like yay, yay. So I had another be curious. One of the things I was asking myself before we got on today, what has been the effect of being curious in my life? What has it done for me? And early on in my awakening into the psychic medium, all that stuff that came naturally, what I realize now is being curious gave me access to past lives, future lives, different timelines, the Akashic records. I mean, it's like everything was available to me simply because I was willing to receive information. I love learning. I love learning. And I've met people who aren't like that. They don't want to be curious. They don't want to know about certain things. And I always do. So it's
They don't
given
want to
me,
learn anything new.
oh,
I think a lot of times people that are afraid of learning, it's all fear based. Like they're afraid to step into something. I don't care if it's knitting and crocheting, start with crocheting. You can unravel it easier. you know,
yeah,
uh,
exactly.
don't start with knitting. Knitting's harder if you make a mistake. I'll play around when I'm crocheting. I'll make up my own stitches, my own patterns or whatever. And just experiment. But yeah, Adrian's right, or ego.
Mhm. Yeah.
Somebody that thinks they know it all, won't allow themselves to experience anything different.
Yeah, I was working with a client yesterday and I was referring something to her to watch, and it was by somebody I had never seen before. And my disclaimer was I really like his information, and I have already heard my way is the right way, which is a huge red flag for me because there's no right way. There's be curious, find the common ground.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong. It's what you learn from it.
Well, yeah, and but there are people who believe that their way is better, and it may be better for some, but not everybody. So yeah, that was an interesting. Here's the addendum to what I want you to look at and why. So okay, my grandparents traveled a lot. Okay, I can't put any of this stuff up. That's cool. You would celebrate different cultural Christmas traditions of the country you were in. That is cool. That is very cool.
I think too, like you'll find teachers that some things resonate with you and some things don't. So hang on to what resonates with
Mhm.
you. If they say something and it hits a note of truth in you, that inner truth, that's what resonance is. Like it hits a note of truth. You hang on to that. If there's something else they say that doesn't, you let it go.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's doesn't seem quite right to me.
Well, and that's part of one of the things that curiosity brings for me is the practice and the skill of being present. If I'm not present, if I'm stressing, if my mind is going a mile a minute worrying about something, or if I'm just not paying attention, then I'm not curious. It's like I'm in this little world here, and magical things are out there, and nothing can get in.
It-
And one of the reasons I do photography shamanically the way I do is because it keeps me present, curious, and in ceremony of thanking nature, because I like to take pictures of nature. So, it's just as a practicing Buddhist from the past, being present with curiosity I think that's changed my life more than anything that's happened to me. It's just be here now, as many of the great teachers say, be here now.
I think, if you don't try new things, you don't discover what some of your gifts are. That's why we go to school, right? We discovered, oh, I'm good at math, I'm bad at, reading, or I'm
Mhm.
good at this, I'm not so good at that. And it helps form um, our life path somewhat. Wouldn't it be boring if we were all identical? We're
Yeah,
all unique and different. We're
yeah.
all going to have different things that resonates with us. So what works for me may not work for Jody. What works for
Mhm.
Jody may not work for me. But being curious and trying, how do I know if that's going to work for me or not unless I give it a try, right?
Well, and beyond that, there's also because I see a lot of people in the fear that's in the world today coming out of COVID. I see a lot of people locking down in fear, and I want people around me that think just like I do,
And
and
fear of change.
a fear of change. And I look at that and I'm like, man, that would bore me to tears. I'm sorry, I don't like that. And I have learned, using the medicine wheel the way I do, as my archetype structure, to be in the center of the wheel in higher self sacred paradox. It teaches me to view how others view the world with curiosity rather than judgment. If I go into a place of judgment because I'm human and I'm in 3D and I do, I step back and just go, okay, if I were practicing curiosity about that person or that group, can I hear it differently? And I've been doing that a lot, since I moved to this part of Arkansas, of just really listening to different groups of people differently and noting where my mind goes, okay, there's the judgment, and asking my higher self to take over and just breathe and listen in a different way, listen with an open heart. And it's been really cool to see that, because it helps me unlock the rigidity that we all get into, and the pandemic years, locked a bunch of us down, and the fear is palatable from those years. And fear stops curiosity. I mean,
Yeah.
that's simple. It just stops it.
Jen Bias is asking, what would help, when you're working with very religious folks who think, metaphysics and healing and things like that are of the devil. And sometimes you can't break through that. I always tell them, a little skepticism is healthy, and let them know, that I work with divine energy, white light, God source, chi or ki, whatever you want to call it, universal energy. I'll do things like get them to do their hands like this and feel the energy between your hands, because everybody can feel that, like rubber bands, and say, that's what I'm working with. That's God, white light, whatever you want to call it. Jesus was a healer. Why can't we be? We're all created in God's image and likeness. So, but a lot of them, they're just going to argue with you, and you let them go. It's like, okay, I'm not for you.
Well, I'm going to say a couple things here. Adrian posted something, I think, on Instagram and Facebook that was a list of reasons that Tarot is, godly, if to use a word. And I don't know whether you can post that in here, Adrian, but that was profoundly important information. So she wrote it out already. The thing that, I have always done this kind of work in the South. I got to go back to California for a few years, but I've been down here in a location that I mean, I have seen printed, written stuff on websites here in Arkansas that list all the things of the devil, which is everything I do. I mean, things like yoga. I'm just like, what? So there's actually a teaching about people like us who do the kind of things that we do. And when I first started doing shamanic journey with clients, 30 some odd years ago in Texas, the first thing I ask anybody I work with is, do you have a religious belief structure? Do you have something you use as your framework for how you see the world? Rather than imposing my views on people, I want to know what construct they work in. And I had to do, and I also learned I'm a cultural anthropologist. I also learned the culture. When I used to work in Laredo, the family that would sponsor me, they were natives of Mexico, immigrants, business people. And they taught me that if you say the word meditation to these groups down here, they will think you're of the devil. And I'm like, duly noted. So I would always ask the people I worked with, who do you want me to call in for the shamanic journey? What spirit? And Mother Mary, God, Jesus, they all came in, and it kept me out of my ego. My beliefs are irrelevant in work like that. I want to know what they believe in. And for the first 2 years in Texas of doing inner child work and shamanic work with clients, the only guide anybody wanted 35 years ago was Jesus. And I'm like, okay, let me see if he'll come into a medicine wheel. And he's like, of course, there's no form over here,
Yeah.
but it was me asking that question of where are you comfortable? Has gotten me past a lot of the, oh my God, what you're doing is horrible. And then there are a lot of people around here that can't get past it. And I just have to bless
And I don't want to go too heavy into the religious road, because there are some people that are going to argue with you no matter what you do. I'm a Christian, but okay, you want to say I'm of the devil, you go your way, I bless you on your journey, I'm going mine. There are just some people that are very argumentative. They're looking for a fight, and I don't engage in that energy. I'm like, I'm not the person for you. Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's
exactly.
nothing wrong with that, because when you're trying to stay in allowing divine order to happen in your life, if you give energy to people that try to suck the energy out of you in a different way, it kind of gets you off your path. So it's like, I bless them, I let them go,
Yeah.
move
Well,
move along. I'm in this space. I'm working in this
the
space.
people that I'm doing the questioning with have come to me for sessions, and what I do is hitting them in the, oh crap, I was taught this was wrong. How do I reconcile that
Yeah,
and receive this session?
if
And
they're open to it. Yeah,
which I don't think I've had anybody walk out on me going, oh my
you're
God.
curious.
Well, they're curious, but I've also learned as an anthropologist to frame it in their terminology. My terminology is irrelevant. It's just ego.
Yeah.
Their terminology is what they can hear to be able to do a journey and get whatever transformation they want. So yeah, I mean, I don't go anywhere near the
Yeah,
people.
if they staying curious, if they've opened that curiosity up enough, they know something isn't resonated about what they've heard in the past, because they're drawn to it and exploring it. So yeah, going there in the language that they know and helping them to understand and embrace the journey.
Yeah.
um
It's very interesting. I mean, I miss the days of living in California, frankly, where I didn't have to go through all those contortions to work with people. And, one of the things I understand from chatting with my guides is there's a reason I'm in a place like this doing the work I do. I can stay in the sacred neutral enough to not go out and antagonize people. It'd be fun, but I don't, I'm willing to, I love learning other cultures, even if it's religious. I like learning stuff, I like
I
that
love
curiosity it keeps me out of judgment.
I think
Which,
it keeps us out of judgments. It can put you in someone else's shoes to understand where they're coming from more if you
mhm,
try something that's
mhm,
even if it's outside your comfort zone.
mhm,
Um, but it informs us more whether it's something we're going to do again and again and again doesn't matter. It gives us more information.
mhm,
I think learning to me, like I hope I'm learning into my 90s. I'm always
mhm.
curious, always learning. I think it keeps us young at heart,
Oh,
to always be exploring. And
yeah.
if you're physically not able to get out and explore and try things, you can explore from books and what you watch on YouTube. You can
Right.
find things to explore even from the sofa.
I remember this actually, I still remember this because it was so freaking funny. Um, Somebody I was dating years ago was, saying, I really like dating you because you're so well traveled. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, the only time I've left the country is Mexico and the Caribbean. What the hell are you talking about? He was from England, right? He'd been all over the world. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he looks at me, he goes, you journey all the time. You go everywhere. And I'm like, okay. I didn't really consider that well traveled, but point well taken. It was hysterical because he was the definition of well traveled as a human, and I was the one that's like, "Ooh, I need to talk to somebody on the moon. Let's go. I'm going to go do a journey in remote view." It was so funny, because I just went, "Huh? This doesn't make sense." The last 6 months, speaking of learning, I've been learning and practicing and using the voice analysis work from two teachers and what is happening for me is my inner nerd. The one that hated math when I was in school because voice analysis is math algorithms. MIT invented it. My inner nerd has never been so happy. It's like, oh, I can get into technology again. And all of the technology of voice analysis has actually increased my psychic, intuitive, shamanic skills, which has really been I didn't expect that. So, I'm studying with two teachers. I'm in class all the time. I've been really busy with that, and I love it because it's new and it's different and it helps and and I love learning. I love technology. I actually do like that. So I have been having. I feel like I'm back in school. I'm back in school, and I've got people like, where'd this come from? And I'm googling, trying to figure out where the invention came from at MIT. Now, the thing that's interesting, because shamanically I can do this. I didn't know they were doing this in technology. MIT is studying how to voice analyze thoughts. And I'm like, okay, that's highly shamanic. I can do that when I turn the switch on. And I'm like, you can do that with technology now. But that was curious. So
Yeah.
I have a friend in California. This was, oh God, how many years ago? Ooh, almost 20 years ago. I was driving, actually, Kelly from Dozen Cats, we talked about this yesterday. I was driving to Fort Hood to work and was on the road for like 2 hours that day. I think it was coming from Austin. And this friend had had a near death the night before. And all night she had chats with God. And it was, and she told me a lot about it. It was amazing to be driving through the open country of Texas in the expanse, hearing this from somebody. And the last thing she asked God, and the last thing she told me was this: I asked God what he, she, it wanted from humans. And the answer was stay curious. And it was like, yes, I can relate to that. I mean, it was just, it was, we've reconnected and we're talking. I'm going, do you remember that day? She goes, yeah. I said, I have lived by those words since that day. And it just keeps me, like you said, young. It keeps my inner children engaged because they're the source of curiosity. It's been really neat.
Exploring the road less traveled. I mean, we get in
Yeah.
a rut, we get in a routine like, okay, I drive this way when I go to get my hair done. I'm going to try a different way because I might see something that I didn't know was there that I'd be interested in going in to check out a new shop or something. So,
Yeah.
take a little side trip, take a little adventure.
Yeah.
Um, if there's something you want to learn, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. There's some things we can learn on our own. We can teach ourselves, like cooking. I think it just takes practice and experimenting and playing around with it. But there are other things you can take classes. And if you want to take a class in something, think about that, one thing that that you've been curious about, that you'd like to explore, and take one little step towards it. The universe will open it up and bring divine order into it to get you on your way.
Exactly. I'm looking at the chat. Rose, I agree with you. Meditation and prayer for me go together. It's a different form. Music is my prayer. I get that.
Sure. When I age of 57, I took up guitar. It's like you're never too old to learn something new. You may not be, the world's great. I'm not going to be some, classical guitarist playing with the symphony, but I enjoy it, and it's a form of meditation for me when I play.
Well, and the thing that helps me with being curious is humans are polarized right now in all facets of belief systems. And I mean, back in the old days when I started this path, we didn't have iPhones, we didn't have the internet, we dang well didn't have Google, we didn't have any of that. We had to go read books. And nowadays, if I'm presented with a belief or a something that's going on, I mean, the first thing I do is start Googling around. I do searches like, is this true? Can I find any data on it? And I got that challenge from somebody, about where did the voice analysis come from? And so it was midnight one night and I'm Googling MIT voice. I'm, emailing her links, because it's like, there's so much information out there that we have access to, which is exciting. And it also means if that piece of information or that belief system isn't resonating with me, I can do more research. And if it is resonating, I can do more research. I can go find out an expansive overview of it. And that's been really helpful for me because I started this path in the days when we didn't have this technology. It makes it easier. I love being outside, like, oh, there's a bird. Let me take a picture of it. Dr. Google will tell me what the bird is.
I think it's good to remember, like guitar, sometimes we try things and we find out what we're good at and what we're not. Mm-hmm. Some things take practice. And if you're not willing to put in the practice time, if you start it and, oh, I'm no good at this and quit it, you're never going to get good at it.
Yeah.
Healing energy works the same way. If you don't practice, you're not going to get better at it. So reading tarot cards or whatever your thing is, driving a car, if you don't practice, you don't get better at it, right? You have to practice before you get your license when you're a kid. So I think it's important to know you have to apply yourself to certain things, but after you do, and you've given it a fair shot, when I was younger, I was good at softball. I was horrible at basketball. Couldn't play basketball to save my life. Couldn't dribble, just not my thing. And I practiced. I had brothers that played and stuff. I'd practice, never got better at it. You'll find the things that you do get the hang of, you usually enjoy more because you get the hang of it, eventually, and you learn. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat.
You got a frog. Uh-oh, one of my frogs out back got you.
Found me.
Okay, I moved into this house November 1st, and that we hadn't had a freeze yet, I don't think, but it was fall, the trees were losing leaves and such. And with all the freezes we've had here, it's been a very interesting winter down here. Um, and flooding, the creek floods on the other side of the creek. There's like a marshland. Thank God, not on this side of the creek. So when it started flooding, the frogs started coming out of hibernation. And when the water would recede, they'd go back under. It was like, nope, it's not time yet. The last 2 days, it's been somewhat warm out, and I have walked, and I actually recorded this yesterday. I have recorded the frog sounds, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm in a whole different world that I moved into. I mean, they are just out there singing, and I'm going, okay, I'm going to go out there with a Tibetan bowl one night and just, play away with the frogs and see what happens.
Sing with the frogs.
Yeah. Well, I also recorded them, so I'm going to actually marry them with some of my music because, oh my God, what a sound. They're loud. They're all over the place. It's really cool. But it's like, ooh, something happened. It changed. I love it. And I'm so far enough away from the creek where I don't hear it through these windows unless I open the door or open the windows, and I'm looking forward to it being warm enough to do that.
It takes being present to pay attention to what are the sounds out there in nature, whether it's a bird or whether it's, the frogs in the evening or the crickets or whatever. It takes being present in the moment and having those quiet times where you just go and just be. And I think we learn a lot from nature. We learn. I think nature does trial and error just like we do sometimes. It's there's a lot we can learn from nature, just getting out and watching and seeing what works for nature, what doesn't.
Yeah, nature is my favorite teacher.
Jody, is it time for a little meditation and music?
It's time. Okay, while you're doing that, I'm going to go take care of my detox kicking in with the phone, so I know that you're going to be almost done. So
Okay.
I get to enjoy your ceremony from the other room.
For those that want to light a candle with me, we always end these with meditation, candle lighting, and going into the sound bath that Jody's setting up for. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to see if I can do this without Roro coming up here and joining me as she did the last time we were on my channel. So, Archangel Raphael, Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Ariel, and to the Hathors, we surrender to your mercy, love, protection, and guidance. We thank you for protecting us. We thank you for sharing in our mindful protection, allowing only spirits of love and light to connect with us. We thank you for allowing us to experience wonderful miracles every day. We thank you as we allow divine order to embrace us and share our pathway with us, to share our journey with us. We thank you for the grace with which we go on our journey. We thank you for helping us discover our own unique special gifts and embracing those gifts. And we thank you for sharing our discernment, our mindful resonance as we're learning and experiencing life. And as we go on the journey of life, a train is going by in the distance.
Let's start with a little breathing. Hand on heart. And just start your sound healing breath. That is your first healing instrument. And breathe down into your heart center. It's an invitation to come out of the brain. And as you sink into your heart, bring in a frequency of gratitude. And breathe all of that up into your head. And as head and heart connect, the harmony is something you can breathe throughout your entire body and out into the field to be of service.
Well, we had little Johnny Fortescue join us today, which is unusual. He doesn't usually come up on the table. Little Skewy.
Hey, beautiful.
So be curious like a cat. Try
Mhm.
something you haven't tried before. Skewy just did a sound bath and he's purring up a storm. He's loving it.
Aw.
You never know what you like or don't like until you try it.
That's for sure.
Experiment.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, it's like a menu. I had a friend one time, she wouldn't go in um, restaurants that serve different ethnic foods. She's like, well, I don't know what it is. I don't know what I'm eating. I said, that's what the waiters are for. They'll tell you what's in stuff, and that's what the menu's for. It'll tell you what's in stuff.
Hmm.
I'm like, don't be afraid to try something different. You may find certain dishes you like and certain ones you don't. But you don't know until you try. So be curious. Go out and do one thing this week that you've never tried before, something that you've thought about trying.
Yeah.
Be curious.
And another way for being curious, which we all tend to do, is if we're going somewhere, take a different route. Let's take a different route. I do that out here in the country, and it's like, whoa, look at
The,
that.
the road less traveled, just take a little detour. I love that. Take a little detour.
Yeah.
Take a little longer way home every now and then.
Hmm.
Go for a walk around the neighborhood. See things that you haven't noticed. Every time I go for a walk around my neighborhood, I notice something I haven't noticed before.
Hmm. And I live in a place where it's not safe for me to walk around this area. I would get run over in about 2 seconds. And I'm thinking about that this morning, going, okay, I have a few friends that live out here in Hot Springs who hike, and I need to call them up and go, okay, I'm being curious. Where can I go? Like, I know there's places to walk around here. Tell me where
Yeah.
I go.
Take a friend with you. If you're a little bit fearful of trying something new, talk a friend into going with you. Like, hey, let's try this.
Mhm.
Sometimes making new friends
Mhm.
happens because you try something new and you try it on your own.
Mhm. Yep.
What, you just
Look
gonna
at
keep
that.
reaching for me with those long arms? He's got the
He
longest arms.
he is just in absolute chill mode.
Oh, completely, just purring up a storm and pawing at me like, Mom, I'm still here.
Oh.
This is my lollygagger. He sleeps with me at night, just
Oh.
constantly touching my face and stuff, reaching up, touching me.
Oh, he is such a sweetheart. Look at that. Well, thank you all for being curious enough to join us this morning for coffee.
And we will see you in March on Jody's channel, first Monday of every month. March back on Jody Roberts' channel. Thank you, Sharon Slipe, for posting the links all through
Mhm.
today.
Come and dig. I have never gone crystal digging since I moved here.
Wow.
Well, I have about 1,000 of them of my own in the house. It's not like I need a crystal,
Yeah.
but there's some good places to go crystal digging. But you want to do it not in the middle of summer. It's too
Yeah.
hot.
Don't be out there in the hot sun.
And the best time to do it is after pouring rain because it's all red, goopy mud and all the crystals come up. The inner kids get to make a mess. So, yeah, we can do that.
Thank you, Jody, for the sound bath, and we will see you next month on Jody's channel.
Thank you. Thank you. You guys have a great Monday.
And a great week and a great life.
Yeah. Bye.
Be a cat.
Curious. Be a cat.